गिरिवारधारी गोपीजना वल्लभा गिरिवारधारी यशोदनन्दना व्रजजनरञ्जना यशोदनन्दना व्रजजनरञ्जना यमुनातीरवनचारी यमुनातीरवनचारी जय राधा माधव कुञ्ज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुञ्ज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जना यमुनातीरवनचारी जय राधा माधव कुञ्ज बिहारी श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribo, 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 Nittai Gauda Haribo. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahansa Paribhāsa Acharya Ashtottara Shata Shishimad Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Vishnu Vishnupada Ashtottara Shata Shishimad Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Thakur Prabhupada Ki Srimad Bhagavatam Gantaraj Ki Jai Gaur Premanandi. Glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So first of all, I'd like to say it's by the mercy of Srimati Radharani that I'm allowed to come here again to Sri Vrindavan Dham and get the association of all the servants of Shri Shri Radha Shama Sundar, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram, Shri Shri Gaur-Nitai. So thank you very much. By your mercy also, I can be here. Well, today, we're departing a little bit from the normal because of Lord Varahadeva's appearance. And we'll read from the second canto, 7th chapter, text number 1, about the appearance of Lord Varahadev in his pastime. So this chapter is called Scheduled Incarnations with Specific Functions, meaning that the incarnations have a specific function. The Lord's expansions are Prakash Rupa and Bilas Rupa. They are actually, the Lord just expands himself for pastimes and for special pastimes where in Prakash Rupa all the forms are the same, and Bilas Rupa the forms are slightly different, but they're all internal pastimes where the Lord expands himself personally. But the incarnations, they have specific functions. They come to this world. They do something in relation to the material world, whereas the expansions, they always remain in the spiritual world, except for when the Lord himself comes to the material world. But actually, they have no function in relation to the material world. They're simply situated in the Lord's Dham, expanding his pastimes in the Dham itself. But these particular incarnations, they come, although they're not in contact with material energy, they come to manipulate the material energy in favor of devotional service. I will read the verse. Brahmovāca yatrodyataḥ kṣiti-taloddharaṇāya bibhrat krauḍīṁ tanum sakala-yajña-mayīm anantaḥ. I'll change the rhythm a little bit. Antar-mahārṇava upāgatam ādi-daityaṁ daṁṣṭrayādrim vajra-dharo dadāra brahmovāca yatrodyataḥ kṣiti-taloddharaṇāya bibhrat kṣadrim tanum sakala-yajña-mayīm anantaḥ antar-mahārṇava upāgatam ādi-daityaṁ tam daṁṣṭrayādrim iva vajra-dharo dadāra. Brahmovāca. Yatrodyataḥ kṣiti-taloddharaṇāya bibhrat. krauḍīṁ tanum sakala-yajña-mayīm anantaḥ. antar-mahārṇava upāgatam ādi-daityaṁ. daṁṣṭrayādrim vajra-dharo brahmovāca. udyataḥ kṣiti-taloddharaṇāya bibhrat. krauḍīṁ tanum sakala-yajña-mayīm anantaḥ. antar-mahārṇava upāgatam ādi-daityaṁ. daṁṣṭrayādrim vajra-dharo dadāra. uvāca. kṣiti-taloddharaṇāya bibhrat. krauḍīṁ tanum sakala-yajña-mayīm anantaḥ. antar-mahārṇava upāgatam ādi-daityaṁ. daṁṣṭrayādrim vajra-dharo dadāra. Vaishnavis, uvāca. kṣiti-taloddharaṇāya bibhrat. tanum sakala-yajña-mayīm anantaḥ. antar-mahārṇava upāgatam ādi-daityaṁ. daṁṣṭrayādrim vajra-dharo dadāra. Brahmovāca. Lord Brahma said, yatra, at that time, when udyataḥ attempted kṣiti-tala, the planet Earth, uddharaṇāya, for the matter of lifting, bibhrat, assumed, krauḍīṁ, pastimes, tanum, form, sakala, total, yajña-mayīm, all-inclusive sacrifices, anantaḥ, the unlimited, antar, within the universe, mahā-arṇave, the great Garbha Ocean, upāgatam, having arrived at, ādi, the first, daityam, demon, tam, him, daṁṣṭrayā, by the tusk, adrim, the flying mountains, iva, like, vajra-dharo, the controller of the thunderbolts, dadāra, pierced. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Brahma said, when the unlimitedly powerful Lord assumed the form of a boar as a pastime, just to lift the planet Earth, which was drowned in the great ocean of the universe called the Garbhodaka, the first demon, Hiranyaksha, appeared, and the Lord pierced him with his tusk. So everyone can please repeat. Lord Brahma said, when the unlimitedly powerful Lord assumed the form of a boar as a pastime, just to lift the planet Earth, which was drowned in the great ocean of the universe, called the Garbhodaka, the first demon, Hiranyaksha, appeared, and the Lord pierced him with his tusk. Purport. Since the beginning of creation, the demons and the demigods, or the Vaishnavas, are always since the beginning of creation, the demons and the demigods, or the Vaishnavas, are always the two classes of living beings to dominate the planets of the universe. Lord Brahma is the first demigod, and Hiranyaksha is the first demon in the universe. Only under certain conditions do the planets float as weightless balls in the air. And as soon as these conditions are disturbed, the planets may fall down in the Garbhodaka Ocean, which covers half the universe. The other half is the spherical dome within which the innumerable planetary systems exist. The floating of the planets in the weightless air is due to the inner constitution of the globes, and modernized drilling of the earth to exploit oil within is a sort of disturbance by the modern demons and can result in a greatly harmful reaction to the floating condition of the earth. A similar disturbance was created formerly by demons headed by Hiranyaksha, the great exploiter of the gold rush. And the earth was detached from its weightless condition and fell down into the Garbhodaka Ocean. The Lord, as the maintainer of the whole creation of the material world, therefore assumed the gigantic form of a boar with a proportionate snout, and picked up the earth from within the water of Garbhodaka. Sri Jayadev Goswami, the great Vaishnava poet, sang as follows: Vasati dashana shikare dharanata valagna shashina kalaka kaleva nimagha keshavaditta shukara rupa jaya jagadisha hare. O Keshava, O Supreme Lord, who have assumed the form of a boar, O Lord, the planet Earth rested on your tusks and appeared like a moon engraved with spots. Such is a symptom of an incarnation of the Lord. The incarnation of the Lord is not the concocted idea of fanciful men who create an incarnation out of imagination. The incarnation of the Lord appears under certain extraordinary circumstances, like the above-mentioned occasion. And the incarnation performs a task which is not even imaginable by the tiny brain of mankind. The modern creators of many cheap incarnations may take note of the factual incarnation of God as the gigantic boar with a suitable snout to carry the planet Earth. When the Lord appeared to pick up the earth, the demon of the name Hiranyaksha tried to create a disturbance in the methodical functions of the Lord. And therefore he was killed by being pierced by the Lord's tusk. According to Sri Jiva Goswami, the demon Hiranyaksha was killed by the hand of the Lord. Therefore, his version is that after being killed by the hand of the Lord, The demon was pierced by the tusk. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur confirms this version. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Gyanam Jana Sharakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Kapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upāgatam Tadati Swapatantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatrishatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is a very beautiful purport by Srila Prabhupada, as all are, but each one is uniquely beautiful. So this describes here that the Lord, this is his pastime. Otherwise the Lord, as it says in Swatasvatara Upanishad, Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate. Tapat shamas jadikashta chushate. The Lord has nothing to do. It's not that he's obliged. The earth falls and he is obliged to come. But, as he says, paritanaya sadhunam, that especially he comes because of his devotees. In this case, the devotee was Lord Brahma, and Manu, Swayambhuva Manu. Swayambhuva Manu, Lord Brahma instructed him, now you should populate the earth. And he said, yes, my Lord, I will do that as an obedient son. But there's a problem. The earth is not in conditions to be populated. It's underwater. So you could populate it by fish, but not by a human being. So this is the beginning. So therefore, vinashaya cheduskritam. So the Lord comes to bless his devotees, Lord Brahma, who has a dilemma. Because Swayambhuva Manu has requested him, can you fix this condition? Can you pick up the earth planet? And Lord Brahma, with all of his potency, all of his greatness, we can just imagine the greatness of Brahma, that he can understand everything that's going on in every planet in the universe. Now, that's a pretty unique brain, compared to our, as Srila Prabhupada says, our tiny little brains. But even he could not figure out, how can this be done? I can't do this. Just like when Lord Chaitanya, just before his appearance, all the devotees were being harassed, mostly by the Brahmins, somewhat by the Muslims, but mostly by the Shmarta Brahmins, whose business was being interrupted by collection business. I'll give you a mantra, you're suffering, I'll give you a mantra if you give me a dakshin. And that was the process. And then the devotees of the Lord are coming and saying, just chant the holy name. And so the Brahmins didn't like this. And so they came and they threatened to tear down the house of Srivas where the devotees were meeting. Sometimes they would meet in the house of Advaitacharya and sometimes in the house of Shiva. And when they threatened, they went to Advaitacharya. And Advaita said, and they said, you are supreme. Please take care of this. And he said, no, this situation can only be taken care of by the original personality of Godhead. So I will summon him. But if he doesn't come, I will cut off their heads with my Sudarshan chakra. But still, that won't solve the problem. The problem will be, the problem is the atheistic desire in the hearts of all the living entities. And therefore only Krishna himself can resolve that problem. I'm a, Advaitacharya, he's expansion of Mahavishnu. So he said, I can manipulate material nature, I can do so many things, but to purify the hearts of all the living entities, only Krishna can do that. So he prayed for him. So in the same way, Brahma was distressed. He felt, I cannot do this. Although he has such great powers. He's the creator of the universe, but he's actually not the creator. He's just the first engineer. Everything was given by the Lord. The ingredients were given. And the intelligence of how to do it was given by the Lord. Because Brahma could not even fathom what to do with this pradhana. What do you do with it? Sometimes we create something, inventors, even people create kingdoms, empires. But it's never quite perfect. It happens, it becomes somewhat glorious, and then it dissolves. So this is the situation. And therefore the Lord comes and he thinks, let me take a form that is suitable to do two things. First of all, to discover the earth which has fallen into a contaminated situation. And second of all, now why was the earth in a contaminated situation? If it is, in the Garbha Ocean, which is not supposed to be so contaminated. It's contaminated because it was being ruled over and exploited by Hiranyaksha. Therefore the earth became contaminated. And here Srila Prabhupada defines the word Hiranyaksha as the great exploiter of the gold rush. Otherwise, Hiranyaksha, in his great desire for gold, he extracted the gold from the earth. Now, Sri Jiva Goswami, he explains that this pastime which is being described in the third canto is actually a combination of two pastimes, the Sweta-varaha pastime and the Tamal-varaha pastime. In the Tamal-varaha pastime, Hiranyaksha is killed. In the first pastime, Hiranyaksha is not killed. So, different millenniums, this happened in different, but they're being combined, just so we can get the full impact. The Bhagavatam, just like the Bhagavatam tells the story of Ramachandra, but it's very summarized, and it just, the most essential elements are presented. The Bhagavatam, because the sages of Naimisharanya came together and they said, we need something in a more condensed form. People will not be able to understand the Vedas. We need to extract the essence of the Vedas so that people can understand in an understandable way. So in the same way, Shukadeva Goswami combined these two things. So we can just imagine the knowledge of Shukadeva Goswami or of Veda Vyas, who can take all of these things into consideration. With our tiny brains, we can barely survive. As it said in Kali Yuga, a man is considered successful if he can maintain his family. It's like great success in Kali Yuga. So Srila Prabhupada emphasizes, how did the earth get into that condition? And Prabhupada, now this was, this purport was written maybe around 1974. And Prabhupada's speaking about what's happening today. And he especially refers here, just like there's so much concern about ecology, global warming. But the Bhagavatam warned us, thousands of years ago, that you can't disturb the natural condition of things. But mankind, being basically atheistic, especially in Kali Yuga, is not concerned with that. If we create some problem by technology, we'll just try to find another technology to solve the problem. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, this is the nature of the material world. People are doing two things, trying to create happiness and trying to eliminate distress. And they pass their whole lives doing that. They have no understanding of the purpose of life. And this is, I wanted to go through, and I brought my little iPad here. I wanted to just go through some of the verses in the actual pastime. And then try to elaborate a little bit on certain verses that are in this particular pastime. So the whole pastime begins. Of course, I summarized the first part of it. So I'll start from there. Really, the whole pastime really starts because Brahma is saying you should protect the people. You have to create progeny, and if you create progeny, you have to protect them. Just like if someone has children, they have to protect them. Not that you have children and then you give them up because it's too much of a burden. Or you don't have children because it's too much of a burden. But you want to enjoy the process of having children. So this is not... So anyway... So Brahma began to meditate. He began to meditate. How is this going to happen? How am I going to lift the earth? Why is the earth so important? Later on in the 13th chapter of 3rd canto, it practically says that the earth is the place of all living beings. So how can that be? We know that this sounds like the geocentric conception of modern, or not even modern, but of many religions and of the thought process for millenniums. They thought the earth is everything. And still we think the earth is everything. And we're so important. And outer space, everything is for our exploitation. Outer space is for our exploitation. Just like even some world leaders are thinking, let us rush, let us be the first ones to go to the moon and other planets. Let us go to Mars and see what we can take from there to come and restore what we've destroyed on this planet. Everyone thinking that everything is for our exploitation. The animals are for our exploitation. People who are less powerful than I are for my exploitation. So this is the nature. So he begins to meditate. Now, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that because the Vedas, the Lord breathes the Vedas into the heart of Brahma. And therefore when Brahma was meditating and his breath came out, the personification of the Vedas in the form of a boar who was only as big as the tip of a thumb came out of his nose, as he was breathing out. And so he thought, this is very unusual, that this little tiny pig has come out of my nose. But then all of a sudden, he flew up in the air and became so gigantic. Now, how gigantic was he? Well, later on in the pastime, we see that he was so big that after he dove into the ocean and he stood up and shook himself, the drops of water coming off of his transcendental body were sprinkling the residents of Satyaloka. That's pretty big. Of course, for the Lord, that's not very big. Mahavishnu is much bigger. And Krishna can be anoraniyam mahato mahiyam. The Lord can be extremely small, or the Lord can be unbelievably large. So, and then from Brahmaloka, he flew in the sky and just dove into the ocean. And when he did, now you can imagine, like we have tsunamis. He dove into the ocean. The whole Garbha Ocean divided into two, just like two huge arms. And then they came together like this. And the ocean, the Garbha Ocean was praying, please, my Lord, don't destroy me. I mean, you can imagine the size of these waves, It would take a pretty competent surfer to catch those waves. And then he calmed the ocean, and he started playing within the ocean, showing that for the Lord to do something like this is lila. It's not like something that, something very difficult for him. Even though it was extremely difficult for Brahma, for Lord Varaha, he starts playing around, a little bit. And then, so I'll just go a little bit farther into these. Now it says that after he entered into the ocean, he again entered into the sky. Just to show up. Now, when he did that, great sages like the Kumaras and the great sages, sons of Brahma, they were totally bewildered. They were totally bewildered by this. Although ultimately a devotee is not so bewildered. This comes in later verses in this chapter, the 13th chapter, the 3rd canto. But in the beginning, in one purport, Srila Prabhupada says that sometimes even a devotee is bewildered, but he never loses his faith in the Lord. But sometimes a devotee, just like Parikshit Maharaj, he was bewildered. How did I do this? Now, Parikshit Maharaj, when he was born, everyone was concerned about who he is. Is he capable? Can he continue the dynasty? And so they asked the astrologers, the Brahmins, is he a great personality? Is he a Maha-Bhagavata? They said no. And everyone goes, he's not a Maha-Bhagavata, he's a Maha-Bhagavata Mahan. He's a Maha-Maha-Bhagavata. So, but even he became bewildered. How could I have done this? Put a snake around a Brahma, a great sage's neck. How could I have done this? So, the Lord's pastimes, Queen Kunti, in 2 verses, in her prayers, she expresses this. Navedakaschit bhagavamschikiršitam tabeha manasya nrinam vidambanam. Oh Lord, your pastimes are certainly so bewildering, vidambanam. And then she describes those bewildering pastimes, janma karma cha vishvatam, that you appear to be born and you appear to have activities within the universe. But ajasya kratur atmanam. But at the same time, you are unborn and you are inactive. And you appear tiran nishishu yadasu. You appear among animals, among humans, among great rishis, and even among aquatics. Otherwise, you've taken this most wonderful form. But however you appear, it is certainly tadatyanta vidambanam. It is very bewildering. Very bewildering to me. All these things, everything you're doing. Otherwise, she's saying, who can really understand the limit of the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is unlimited and so incredible. So then, just reminding myself with my tiny brain of some of these details that come in this pastime. So everybody was momentarily bewildered. But then, what did they do? When they were bewildered, what did they do? They began to pray. It says, when great sages and thinkers who are residents of Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka heard the voice of the boar, they were enlivened. I mean, it was such a great sound, but because they are devotees, or almost devotees, or great sages, because when they heard it, to anyone else, to the demons, and certainly to Hiranyaksha, it was a horrible sound. But to them, it was a great sound, just like when Hiranyakashipu appeared. I mean, when Hiranyakashipu heard the appearance of Nrsimhadev, such a loud sound, he immediately became fearful. But then he recovered himself. I can't be fearful. I'm the Lord of the universe. Must be some temporary bewilderment. Or when the Kauravas heard the conch shells of Krishna and the Pandavas, their hearts filled with doubt and fear. And immediately Duryodhana began to question everybody. Are you ready? He himself was doubtful, but he couldn't appear to be doubtful. So he had to make sure that everyone was not bewildered and united with his cause. So they began to chant prayers, and in their prayers they began to glorify the activities of Varahadev as he rose up into the air, and with his hooves and his hairs on his back, he dispersed the clouds. And he would dive into the ocean and hit the ocean with his hooves, and the ocean was begging for mercy. So these things are all happening. And then he began to search for the earth by smelling. Now, he's omniscient. Why would he have to smell? This is his pastime. I've taken this form, therefore let me smell for the earth. But there's another reason also. Those who are atheistic can think that, this is not God, this is all mythology. Why would God have to smell to find the earth? We know that he didn't have to, but he wanted to. Now I've accepted this form, let me utilize it. Let me do it in such a way that will be pleasing to everyone. And then they started offering their prayers. And even when he went back into the ocean, the ocean again was begging, please be merciful to me. And then he picked up the earth. And he put the earth on his tusks. And he showed everyone. He actually he took a little bit of a proud position, like, here I am, I just saved the earth. And everyone was bewildered. And then, in the pastime, now imagine, he's holding up the earth, and the demon, Hiranyaksha, comes. And Hiranyaksha was so powerful and so angry, and he's holding up the earth, so he says, I'm going to have to fight. But I don't want the earth to be disturbed. So he set down the earth just a little bit off to the side, floating on the water. Now the earth will not sink because he gave it the potency to float on the water. And Srila Prabhupada explains that what we call gravity, I just read an article in Scientific American. I used to study physics, so every once in a while I try to see what they're up to. And it said, so-and-so, I can't remember the name of the scientist, is almost ready to help us understand gravity. But he cannot reconcile gravity with quantum theory. But soon, he will certainly figure this all out. Because if he doesn't, then we will have a big problem with the string theory, and just on and on. That's as far as I got. No, I could see they're totally bewildered. No? Spending so much time, so much energy, and they just can't. They figure out some details, but they can't figure the whole thing out. No? And so then he begins to fight, and of course that whole fight in itself is very interesting. We don't have time to go into it right now, but the Hiranyaksha begins to insult the Lord. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, with his, Srila Prabhupada explains, with his transcendental vision, because Hiranyaksha is a devotee, he's actually, if you understand it in the proper way, he's actually glorifying Varahadev. He's actually glorifying him. And so then Varahadev starts to insult and mocking Hiranyaksha, but Vishwanath says actually he's glorifying his devotee. So such great acharyas can have this vision. We see things in one way, but devotees who are so accomplished, they can see things in many different ways. So he killed the demon, as we read in the introductory verse from the second canto, that Sri Jiva Goswami explains, and not that he explains from some mystic power, but it's actually later on in the 19th chapter where the killing of Hiranyaksha is explained. It actually says this, that first they were fighting with clubs, and then Lord Varahadev dropped his club just to, make it exciting for the demigods, because the demigods were a little concerned. They said, kill him, and even the demigods were saying, my Lord, it's past noon. Soon it will be evening, and the demons will become more powerful. When it becomes evening and nighttime, demons become very powerful. So this shows the difference between a pure devotee, akama devotee, and a sakama devotee. The demigods are sakama devotees. So they sometimes, although they have faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sometimes they may doubt, will the Lord protect us? Just like Srila Prabhupada said about the Christian prayer. He said, give us our bread. Prabhupada said, if you're a pure devotee, you will not think that way. You will not doubt that the Lord will feed me. No. He said, just like, does a child ask his father, will you feed me today? No. Will you be feeding me today? No. Children automatically know. So a devotee automatically knows that the Lord will take care of everything. And therefore everything that's happening in my life is perfect by the Lord's arrangement. Whether I like it or I don't like it, or if it's comfortable or if it's uncomfortable, it doesn't matter. So then he suspended the earth again on his tusks, and the demigods, the sages began to glorify, along with Lord Brahma and certain demigods. They began to glorify Varahadev and speaking about different parts of his body, because Varahadev is known as the personification of yajna. So they began to describe all the different processes of yajna and how they are parts of his body. And one particular part, they said that service to you is awakened in your skin. So we can understand that if we touch the feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his transcendental body will awaken devotional service. And if we touch him, this is actually in the last verse, I think the last or the second last verse of this chapter, if I can just find it very quickly. A very beautiful verse, where it says that, if I can find it here. Just want to read it directly. it's 49 or 48. Here it is. If one hears and describes in a devotional service attitude the auspicious narration of Lord Bor, which is worthy of description, the Lord, who is within the heart of everyone, is very pleased. So it says one should make one's ears should become like one's hands. In other words, with hands you accept something. So a devotee accepts the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with his ears. So this is in the Bhagavatam, in the second canto. There's one verse, beautiful verse, Pibanti ye Bhagavata Atmana Satam. That the Lord is so wonderful because he is the beautiful protector of his devotees. Katamritam Shravana Putishu Samritam. And so, when we drink in the katamritam, the nectar of the Lord's pastimes, and fill our ears with these things, punanti ye vishaya vidushita ashayam, that the heart will be the ears, the mind will be totally cleansed of all material tendencies. And one brajanti yacharana sororohantikam, one will become situated at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of God. So this happens. And then, in the last verse of this chapter, very beautiful verse who other than one who is not a human being? No. Some of our acharyas say, who is an animal? No. Who other than someone who is an animal can exist in this world and not be interested in the ultimate goal of life? Who can refuse the nectar of narrations of the Personality of Godhead's activities, which by itself can deliver one from all material pangs? So in the beginning of the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, the 4th verse in the first chapter, Nivritatayashar upagiyamanat, that one who has lost the taste for material sense enjoyment and engages in bhavavashadachotra manobhiramat, one's mind becomes cleansed and purified and healed from the disease of bhava-roga. One who does that, then yautama shloka gunanupadat, they will only want to hear the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Umam birajita. What person would not do that? No. Bina pashugnat, the killers of animals. No. And one who kills one's own soul, otherwise mayavadis. They can never understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, these are some of the pastimes I just wanted to mention in conclusion of this wonderful pastime. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared and he came back from Gaya and wanted to start his Sankirtan movement. So his devotees had always noticed his extraordinary activities. But they really couldn't understand he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he decided, I have to reveal this to my devotees. So first he revealed to Srivas. No, he actually revealed within the heart of Advaita even before he appeared. But then he revealed to Srivas. And then he revealed to Murari Gupta. He was walking near the house of Murari Gupta and he heard a verse about a verse glorifying, speaking about boars. And he ran into the house of Murari saying, Shukara, Shukara. And he ran up to the altar. Murari says, what's he doing? He went into the altar and there was a big water pot. And he transformed himself into Varahadev. He picked up the water pot with his tusks. And he said, Murari, glorify me. Murari was totally bewildered. Lord Chaitanya, he was just, a wonderful sannyasi who was so beautiful, who came back chanting the holy name. Now he's taken the form of Varahadev. He He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then, so Murari said, how can I glorify you? No. Anantashesha is trying to glorify you constantly, and he can never come to an end. And you, even the Vedas cannot glorify you. They can never reach the limits of your glories. No. So how can I possibly glorify you? So the Lord was pleased. He said, the Vedas, no, there's one rascal in Kashi, Prakashananda. This is not the Prakashananda Saraswati, another Prakashananda, who is using the Vedas to cut off my arms and my legs. No, otherwise impersonal interpretation. No, he said this rascal, is doing this, but my devotees, they always glorify me. They understand who I am, and therefore the devotees are everything to me. And if anyone wants to do something to the devotees, I will smash them. No, he says that. I am so attached to my devotees that even I would kill my own son. And he said, Murari, I want to tell you something very confidential. No, you can't disclose this to anyone else. When I picked up the earth, she became impregnated. And she had a son, Naraka. And I personally trained Naraka. Sometimes we train someone and it doesn't, in spite of all our efforts, they go away from Krishna consciousness. Or they even become inimical. He said, I personally trained him. But he started associating with Banasura, and he became Narakasura. No. He's my own son, but to protect the devotees, I killed him. That's how much I love my devotees. And Murari Gupta just practically fainted in ecstasy to see this wonderful display of the Supreme Person. So that's how much Krishna loves his devotees. So we can see that the Lord, even sometimes out of his scheduled incarnation, sometimes he may appear, especially Lord Chaitanya, in his Mahapraharana Leela, he exhibited different forms of himself, of Ramachandra, of Krishna, to explain to his devotees how he had appeared in different ways, just to facilitate their devotional service or just to protect them. So this is the desire of the Supreme Personality of God. So these are some thoughts. There's 1 minute remaining, if anyone has a quick question. The bell says it's no minutes, but the... can take one question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much for such a wonderful and detailed class. I would like to ask you about the verse you have cited towards the end of the class, this one vajra-dharo, that it is described in the beginning of 10th canto, in the first chapter, that who will not hear about the glories of the Lord. Only the butcher, the killer of the animals, or one who kills his own soul. I mean, it's difficult to understand this in proper way, so can you kindly explain? Because we know from Bhagavad Gita that soul cannot be destroyed by any means, but here it is stated the killer of his own soul, yes. So how to understand it properly?
And that means that he essentially kills the function of the soul, which is to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and just becomes merged into Brahman, where there's no activity. There's no activity for the soul, so it's like stopping the activity of the soul. Of course, the soul itself, as you correctly state, and Krishna states, is eternal and can never be destroyed. So he's killing the activity of the soul. So, time is up. No. Well, you're the controller of time. Yeah.
It seems that the Lord's activities are so amazing that it tests one's faith, and so we have to hear philosophically, logically, and reasonably how the Lord's expanding himself as Advaita Acharya also, but he can't do the job himself. He's waiting for Krishna himself. But Advaita is also, in one sense, Krishna, who's an expansion of Mahavira. So when we start having doubts, what's the best way to understand that actually these are just the tricks of the mind or the intelligence, that we're not really, believing or accepting everything wholeheartedly?
Yes. Well, Krishna says to destroy doubts that one should become more attached to Krishna. So how do we become more attached to Krishna? We become more attached to Krishna by associating with the Vaishnavas, chanting the holy name. So when we have doubts, the best way to destroy doubts is to inquire. To inquire about. Unfortunately, sometimes we have doubts and we begin to criticize. And then the doubts increase, the taste for the holy name decreases, and then we are, we kill our, as Rupa Goswami says, we uproot the creeper of devotional service from the heart. But that actually, it's never destroyed, but it's covered. And it may take lifetimes. Because someone may think, well, if it's not destroyed, no problem. I'll just enjoy a little bit and then, bring it back. I had one godbrother who was really in Maya. Just, enjoying life. And I kept saying, you're 60 years old now. This was some years ago. And he said, no problem. When I want to, I'll just start chanting again and everything will come back. No problem. No. So then I came back a few years later and saw him again. And he said, you were right. I can't revive it. No, I can't revive it. So we just sat down and read the Bhagavatam for days. And finally he said, now I'm not going to give this up again. No. I don't know what happened after that, but anyway. So Maya is very powerful. As Prabhupada said, the problem with you Americans is, and I think it extends to everyone else, you're not afraid of Maya. But especially you thought the Americans were especially good at not being afraid of Maya. And so they did a lot of service, and then all of a sudden, Maya attacks. So we...
Just a small comment. They asked Prabhupada, but Prabhupada, we were all eating meat. So how did we take to Krishna consciousness? Prabhupada said, I created your pious credit so you could do it. You could take to it.
Jai, Haribo. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Varahadev ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi.